before we begin with the regular program, I just wanted to bring your attention to the very important and breaking information that we sent out last night to our list. And if you're not on the Dr. Rima Truth Reports email list, the Health Freedom Action e-alert email list, please go to drrimatruthreports.com and make sure you sign up. It's right there on the actions you can take, signing up for the newsletter. And when you do that, you need to do one more step. You need to make sure that Dr. Laibow, that's dr.laibow, Laibow, at gmail.com, is whitelisted on your email system so our important alerts don't get put into your spam or junk filter. Now, what is the breaking news? The question is Fukushima burning? For those of you who can see the archive version of this program, you'll see some screenshots of something happening at Fukushima. That something included a release of a lot of radiation and something that's suspiciously like orange flames.
Some idiot on the internet is pushing the idea that that's actually a bus headlight or a ship that pulled into Fukushima harbor at that hour of the night. Of course, there's no indication that either of those would be the case, and everybody on the ship would have to be wearing hazmat suits. So, you know, it seems to me that the propagandists are working overtime on this one.
I was just talking about the Japan radiation map that you had found with 121,000 millisieverts per hour and the bright purple warning symbol. But please, tell us about. Let's talk about Morata-san.
Well, Morata-san is the man known as the conscience of Fukushima. He is the former ambassador of Japan to Switzerland, which is a very important posting. He is a man of enormous erudition. He's very thoughtful, very philosophical, extremely intelligent, and very, very concerned with the fact that the nuclear disaster of Fukushima has not been responded to in any reasonable way whatsoever by the world governments, because TEPCO clearly is incapable and incompetent of solving the problem. The Japanese government is incapable and unwilling to solve the problem. And it is up to the world community, because this is not just a humanitarian aid, as in a famine in, say, Ethiopia or Chad, that the world should come to the aid of because it's the right thing to do. This is a self-interested situation where the entire world can be literally rendered uninhabitable and uninhabited if Fukushima is not controlled. And the reality is that currently there is no known technology which can control Fukushima. It is unlike Chernobyl in that it can't simply be entombed. It's not one reactor, nor could the 6 reactors there and the 4 reactors down the road at Fukushima Daini just be entombed, because at least 3 of the reactors have already melted down below the containment area, the containment vessel, and are in the largest freshwater aquifer in Japan, which is where Tokyo gets its water from. And they keep spewing these out of control reactors, and they keep catching fire. This is about the 4th time that fuel pool number 4 has caught fire. And so it just goes on and on. Now, you may remember that Japan came up with the absolutely cataclysmically idiotic idea of dropping a curtain wall of gas at 30 degrees below zero, 100 feet down, and that would freeze the earth. And the earth would then act as a barrier to the radioactive water seeping up from the aquifer below Fukushima, and that would keep it from having to be dealt with. And at the time, we actually, Ralph, you and I wrote a blog post on this, and we said, that is cataclysmically stupid. And what are they going to do? Maintain the 30 degrees below zero gas for the next 10,000 years? 100,000 years? How long can you maintain that? Well, it turns out that although the Japanese government spent $32 billion to pay for this, the the role was only supposed to last 7 years after it was put in place. They didn't know what they were going to do after 7 years, and they were just about to start working on it in earnest a year after it was funded, when the Japanese Nuclear Regulatory Agency today said, wait a minute, that is a cataclysmically stupid idea. That's not going to work. The largest test that's ever been done was 10 meters by 10, 10 feet by 10 feet, 3 meters by 3 meters. We have no idea if this is going to work. And do we have any reason to think that the water pressure and the heat of the radioactive water behind it won't just melt the damn thing? And what about the fact that it makes the whole area much heavier and it's already sinking into the aquifer? How's that going to help? And so they halted this program today, just a year after it was funded. Of course, it's not clear what happens to the money. And on the same day, the Japanese courts said, TEPCO, you want to start the Oshi nuclear reactors, 2 nuclear reactors at a place called Oshi. The people who live in Oshi aren't real happy about that. And your answer to them has been basically Japanese for tough. So the people, 138 people, brought a class action suit. Remember, Ralph, when people could bring class action suits in the United States?
Yep.
Those days are pretty well gone, right?
That's true. We've learned that.
Well, 138 people said, we're not so happy about this. We think you're endangering our life, and we don't believe that you have a plan to protect us. We don't believe that you have an evacuation plan. We don't believe that you know what you're doing, as evidenced by Fukushima. And the courts today halted the planned restart of the, I'm sorry, I said Oshi, it's Ojai, of the Ojai nuclear reactors. And my suspicion is this will be the first in a series of court actions now that it's clear that the court will take the will of the people into account. Meanwhile, Ambassador Morata, when we called him and said, Ambassador Morata-san, the video shows something that looks very much like a fairly serious fire here at Fukushima. He said that he hadn't heard anything, which means that the blackout on any negative news, any radiation leaks, and so on, is quite complete. So, and we know that Japan has passed laws to make it a serious political crime, punishable by 10 years in jail, to say anything negative about radiation, Fukushima, etc.
Dr. Rima, let me describe for our listeners the 3 still shots that we took from the video. The video, which has made its way around the world, but apparently has not gotten commented on the media in Japan or in the United States. And the 3 images show in the first shot a typical image of the Fukushima Daiichi reactor plants, the chunky rectangular structures that these reactors are housed in. It's a night vision image, and you can see the sharp edges of the buildings, and you can see the dark sky behind. The second shot, which is partway into the video, you can clearly see a red glow between the buildings and the beginnings of a haze. In the third shot, and these 3 shots are all from the same exact camera, you can see a later stage in which the smoke has now obscured most of the buildings, and the orange glow has also been to some degree um, obscured. So those are the shots that we send out. And Dr. Rima found that reading of 121,000 millisieverts per hour. Dr. Rima, I understand that it's been very difficult to find any updates since that
Well,
image.
what happened was that Japan has a number of near real-time radiation updates. There's one system run by the Japanese Nuclear Energy Commission that updates every 10 seconds, which is why it's near real-time. It's not completely real-time, but there's a 10-second update cycle. And there are readings from all over Japan, many in the Fukushima prefecture, except that this system stopped recording on the 20th, and the numbers have not changed. Well, maybe the system is down. Oddly enough, a number of independent systems also seem to have gone down or have been silenced at the same time. Vivian Norris on HuffPost wrote a blog called Deadly Silence on Fukushima, deadly indeed. It's as if the information that has been sort of grudgingly ripped out of TEPCO's breast has been shut off. And it's very, very hard to find accurate readings. What we do know, I went and I checked the wind speed in Fukushima Prefecture and at Fukushima Daiichi for the 20th, the 21st, and the 22nd to see if possibly the very rapidly moving vapor or smoke or clouds could be accounted for by the wind speed, and indeed it could not. So we're looking at smoke or vapor being blown across the screen, and also some at ground level that obscures structures. Then I went and I looked at other videos, other subsequent videos. YouTube carries a Fukushima webcam update, a live webcam supposedly. And I have come to the suspicion, I can't call it a conclusion, but a suspicion that the webcam is not live. I see the cranes doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And I see the same webcam videos kind of recycling. It's very interesting. So I think that there's a good deal of hanky-panky going on in the information flow. Why? Well, if there were good things going on, like GMOs really being good for you, they'd be trumpeted. They'd be labeled with big includes GMO ingredients labels. But since GMOs are really dangerous and everybody knows it either intuitively or scientifically at this point, the GMO makers are fighting GMO labeling like tooth and nail. And the same thing is true with Fukushima. I think that the deadly silence is just that. I've just checked as I've been speaking on the internet, and the deadly silence continues. As in zip, doodle, nada. It's the same silence, to say one more thing before we conclude this. It's the same silence that we're getting about the supposed Ebola outbreak in Pisa, Italy, where illegal African immigrants were supposed to have infected Pisa, caused the complete shutdown and lockdown of a hospital where there were supposedly 40 cases of deadly genetically engineered antibiotic-resistant Ebola, and the other half of the workers disappeared into the woods. Did it happen? Did it not happen? Was it a smokescreen to get us to pay no attention to the fact that MERS, Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, really is spreading? And that's not so bad, because while Ebola has a kill rate of 90%, MERS has only a kill rate of 69%, hardly anything to sneeze at. So I think there is a multiple system of intentional suppression and distraction going on about the deadliest things in our environment. And I think we had all better be rather worried.
Indeed, Dr. Rima, I think we have to be as well. So, what can people do at the present time? One of the things you can do, folks, is you can push back. And of course, pushing back means sending messages through our action item system, our web forms that allow you to easily, at the click of a few buttons, our mouse warriors can send messages to decision makers about all of these issues. That's one of our tiny URLs, tinyurl.com/push back here. That's one thing you can do, and within that nexus you'll find the Fukushima Hope action item, and in that one we join in with Morata-san, and we send messages to the embassy, to the authorities in Japan, to the American authorities, and we ask them to act immediately and no longer put this off. Morata-san has asked the world to encourage the Japanese to engage in what he calls honorable retreat from the Fukushima from the Olympics that are coming in 2020. He calls for an honorable retreat because it's not safe to ask the world's athletes to come to Tokyo in just a few years, and it will probably not be safe in those few years. So we join him in this call for an honorable retreat from the Olympics, and we were really honored that he was our guest on this radio program. Dr. Rima Truth Reports on Revolution Radio, and we just I think it's time for us to help those people in Japan and elsewhere, like Murata-san, who are looking at this terrible situation without blinking, as it were, and we need to back them up. Dr.
I
Rima,
just got an email from Morata-san.
Tell us.
And I will read it to you. Why are we getting this echo?
Well, always
Are
wonder.
You getting an echo?
A little, you're breaking up a bit.
Okay. He says, Dear Dr. Rima, I understand your preoccupations very well. This is about the camera not being live. Thank you for this and preceding mails. I need to think how best to cope with this serious issue. I will begin by informing the competent authorities, TEPCO, and some experts. The competent authorities include the Prime Minister and other ministers. Best wishes, Mitsuhei Murata.
All right, good. We need to continue to back him up, folks. You need to go to tinyurl.com/Fukushima Hope and add your voice. Add your voice and make sure that decision makers understand this will not continue.